Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everybody, and a special welcome to those who may have joined us from live streaming this afternoon for Eastern District Council's Performance and Monitoring Committee. I'd like to start with the karakia. We've had a request from Councillor O'Keefe for Te Arawaha. He's going to grab his guitar, and I think the words will appear, yes, there they are, on the screen. So thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. Yep. Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. A wonderful way to start off our meeting today. So we move to apologies or leave of absence. I received no apologies. Are there any councillors who wish to apply for leave of absence? No? Fantastic. We then move on to conflicts of interest, and two have been acknowledged. Callum for Food East, and Councillor Rossiter, and Councillor Lorcan as well is going to declare an interest as well. So those both have been noted.
Punches above its weight, and it's a real point of pride for our region. And Jade is going to take you through some highlights from the 2025 festival.
Thank you, Jude. Can everyone hear me? Great. The 2025 festival presented 18 performances over 10 days, attracting close to 6,500 attendees. And importantly, although the program was smaller than in previous years, it attracted the same audience numbers as 2023, demonstrating that our targeted programming model has achieved significantly higher demand per show. This validates the strategy of presenting fewer but higher quality works that are carefully curated. The audience feedback was extremely strong. 97% rated the quality of performances as excellent or very good, 90% rated their overall experience as excellent or very good, and 96% said they intend to return in 26. For the first time, we also measured wellbeing impacts, and the results were very encouraging. 96% said that the festival contributed positively to their mental wellbeing, 89% said it positively impacted their social wellbeing, and 84% said it strengthened their connection to arts, culture, and community. Accessibility and inclusion remained a priority. The festival provided companion seating for disabled audience members and presented a range of free public experiences. And nearly 500 people attended using our new discounted family pass. We've also invested in the future of the creative sector through a youth career pathway program in partnership with Toi Toi. Every participant reported increased confidence in pursuing a career in the arts. From an economic perspective, the festival continues to deliver meaningful value for the district. Approximately 14% of attendees came from outside Hawke's Bay and represented 15% of transaction volume. Survey data suggests average visitor spending of around $240 per person, and across the 10-day festival, this has benefited hospitality, retail, and transport businesses here in Hastings. Financially, the festival has also achieved its sustainability objective. The 25 festival delivered an 8.6% net profit margin, which has helped to build back our reserves in line with our finance policy. This progress strengthens the long-term sustainability of the organisation and ensures that we can continue delivering programs that benefit the region. Looking ahead, we see exciting opportunities to build on this momentum, including expanding accessibility initiatives and securing exceptional works. We are already in conversation with major international acts for 27 and 28 festivals, and we can't wait to bring these to Hastings. Importantly, we've secured a 2-year partnership with Creative New Zealand for 2026 and 27, recognising Arts Inc.'s leadership role and contribution to community and creativity in both the regional and national arts ecosystem. In conclusion, I would just like to again thank you for your continued support. Our partnership with Hastings District Council made this success possible. And on behalf of the artists we work with and the communities that we serve, we want to extend our sincere gratitude. We look forward to building on this success with you in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude and Jade. And before I pass over to Councillor for questions, I'd just like to acknowledge an old friend in the gallery, former Councillor Ana Apatu. Welcome back, Ana. Welcome. So is there any questions for Jude or Jade? Mayor Sholem?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to first of all acknowledge that it's fantastic to see the 2025 festival had those ticketing numbers that were akin to 2023. Well done, team, because I know how hard it was to make that decision in 2024 to pause things while you regrouped. So congratulations. I'm interested to understand, given such a huge uptake of the family pass, how is it informing your planning going forward?
Well, it shows that there is clear demand for programs that are accessible for all ages. So we continue to look for headline and more bespoke acts that can service an all ages audience. This year we also, with our dates and next year, have a week in the school holidays. So I'm actively in conversation with artists about works that we can bring here to be part of that offer to the community. But yeah, it shows a clear demand, which is really great.
Thank you. Councillor Monteperto Hendry.
I have a comment, not a question,
Oh.
if I may. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for your report. Really impressed to see the really good financial turnaround. Your media reach was awesome, Kapai. Finances 114, again, 3 million GDP estimate. Thank you very much. We need that right now. Partnerships with HBT, Eyesight Council, well done. We need to bring everyone in together. The positive stance in your report, even though it was lean, was really, really refreshing, and I invite that, so thank you. A couple of KPIs not hit, but it's black and white and straight up, so again, thank you for that. I'll leave you with Creativity Takes Courage by Henry Matisse.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tia Skipworth.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment as well. As a health advocate myself, it was really great to see the social and mental wellbeing included in your survey. So I just want to thank you because the arts sector does bring a lot of joy to people's lives.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more comments or questions? Mayor Sholem, sorry.
I'm very happy to move the recommendations if you're happy to take that at this time.
Thank you. Who have a seconder? Councillor Tia Skipworth. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much for coming along, and it's pleasing. It's been, I know it was a rough time, and you've turned it around, and thank you too, Jude, for your volunteers on your board, and for the work you do as well for the arts community. It's from behalf of all of us, much appreciated.
It's a great partnership with us and Hastings, and there's one area, Jade said don't ask questions or suggestions, but there is one area where I think we can work together better, and that's to engage and bring Napier into that festival, significantly financially and with events. It's something we're missing.
Wonderful, and I'm sure Ms. Roebuck over there would greatly take that as an action. The smile says it all. Thank you both. I'd now like to invite Food East, so Michael Bassett-Foss, Tony Gray and Nikki Solomon. Welcome to the chamber. And so once again, councillors have seen the report, so you may take that as read.
Kia ora koutou, councillors, mayor. Great pleasure to be back here. We skipped the last update to the committee just following the election, so really good to be back here presenting this report. I've got a few slides which will build on the quarterly report, the half-year report that you've seen already, and just sort of delve a bit deeper on areas of progress, and then happy to take questions. Acknowledging there's some new councillors in the room, we'll just take a step back and remind people of the history and where we've come to a year deep into operations. Talk about our tenancy numbers, our commercial plan, and our high level of focus on it, and then our innovation activities. Just a recap on who we are, and I think being mindful of the global economic challenges that the world has been facing, the disrupted supply chains, the impacts to resources and concerns around regional food stability and others. Food East Taumako is a strategic regional asset with a focus on collaboration, innovation, research and development. I'm reading from the slide, a purpose-built venue designed to harness and leverage Hawke's Bay food, beverage and agritech sector potential, bringing to reality the next generation of new businesses and bolstering value into that big sector that is here. The journey hasn't been recent. It's well over 6 years old, underpinned by a significant feasibility study and a business case, which actually enabled the funding, the $12 million of funding from the primary sector under the Provincial Growth Fund, and then shareholders coalescing to bring in $6 million of shareholder capital. I just salute Hastings District Council for having the vision to create a facility that is a front door to our major sector in Hawke's Bay, and driving value into that sector. Also recognising that there's no ongoing public sector funding for this, and that drives a real tension between delivering innovation, which costs money, and driving financial sustainability, which is a key focus for the board. But we've got a regional asset, and we're charged with activating it now. There's a view of the milestones. Prior to 2018, there was a regional governance committee that drove the feasibility study and business case, and the shareholders and the funding coming together to incorporate in 2021. Construction started soon after. The construction period was protracted due to COVID, and it was at the time of construction spike costs increases, which underpin some of our current issues. And then the official opening in December, and there's some highlights from the last year around some national scale conferences, the launch of our corporate partnership program just recently, and earlier this week the Investor Group launch.
I'd just like to add to those comments in that this project was initiated by Hastings District Council, so for new councillors, we were way back in 2017-18, basically sort of driving this project. So it's been a long project, but where we are today.
Just over the last year, these numbers feature in the Q2 report. 178 individuals, companies came to us seeking advice and support, and that was provided. Attendees to events, 1,600, 42 different entities. These are the inputs to driving innovation, they're not the outputs, but that's the foundation for actually making innovation happen. Again, just salute Council for leaning in to partner with us around sustainable is attainable. There's 73 businesses currently fully engaged with that, and working on projects, for example, around reducing waste to landfill, which is a substantive cost for Council. And there's our major events there again. In terms of tenancies, we've got 16 tenants on board, 53 staff, and it'll be no surprise it's been a damn challenging commercial leasing market over the last year, but yet we've landed in a space which is quite healthy with anchor tenants, which underpin the financials, and I think 5 startups currently, which come and go. So the collab space, which is pictured in that slide, is vibrant. I think we've got 8 or 9 companies in there, and you can see the cross-pollination of ideas. Occupancy rates in the office building, 73%. In the industrial building, it's just over 50%, but there's another 25% which is earmarked for innovation, and this is the tension between innovation and commercial outcomes. So there's a lab operational in there on direction of travel to have open access facilities and again, driving innovation. In terms of the commercial plan, it keeps directors and myself awake at night. It not only delivers financial sustainability, but fuels the innovation program, which costs and provides commercial returns. Noting that the initial capital wasn't inflation adjusted and that spike in construction costs, the cash runway has reduced as previously reported to council, but it's remained stable over the last 12 months, running until the end of 2028, and ongoing shortfalls at that time, based on business as usual, without finding additional revenue streams, which is our key focus. Just giving you a sort of a view on some of those additional revenue streams. Now that we have the tenancy and the events program to have some mojo, we've embarked on the corporate partnership program, confirming 2 naming rights sponsors for meeting room and boardroom. We've got 8 partners in the Innovation Club currently, and that was started because of feedback from industry that said the value proposition from Foodies Taumako was access to facilities, access to events, opportunities to network and leadership development. So there's different tiers of membership which offer that as a value proposition. The investor group was launched earlier this week, and that came after investor forums last week, acknowledging that Hawke's Bay is the only region in the country without a regional framework for enabling private sector investment to invest in growing businesses. Yet we had some of the highest proportions of high net worths in the country. And access to capital is a critical barrier for growing companies. So we've taken it on board to launch this. Just another, I think I've gone too far. There's a view of the innovation activities, just very quickly. I've spoken to some of them. Sustainable is attainable, as the projects that are underway are starting to show some value. We'll develop case studies around them shortly. National level partnerships are driving focus on our important sector. Just want to sort of signal the Massey EIT relationship that we've been nurturing for a good 9 months so far. I think it's been an ambition of the region for decades to form closer relationships with the innovation ecosystem in the Manawatu. So we've taken steps to cement that. And you don't see outcomes from innovation from day dot. They take time. And a year into our program, we're seeing those start to become more tangible. There are 3 projects and partnerships that have spawned because of the Food East facility being there and the tenants and the visitors to it, and new jobs have started to be created. So we've signalled to shareholders previously that over time we will develop our measuring and reporting framework as these outcomes are more able to be spoken to. Fermentation agenda was another opportunity that came out of the Innovation Hub, out of a tenant actually. The strategic case that was commissioned by the Hawke's Bay Economic Development Agency demonstrated there was some real potential for fermentation and novel foods in Hawke's Bay because of the makeup of our sector here, but also the massive amounts of food, organic waste that can be, added value to. So you can see that illustration at the bottom showed that the board's had a very, very considered and staged approach in walking into this space. But the strategic case sort of showed that there was the demand wasn't evident. So we've started the journey with a lab space on a way towards considering a pilot scale commercialisation facility, which is a gap in the New Zealand market for. We held a national summit September last year. We were applauded by national stakeholders for bringing people together. There was a cry from the crowd to develop a national strategy to help this massive opportunity for New Zealand Inc. And we were given the mandate to take that forward. So we're doing that in concert with key stakeholders. Our industry survey, our second industry survey landed last week. We're still going through the results. We'll launch it or announce it in the coming weeks. A couple of the highlights that we've noted is there's double the number of businesses identifying product development and innovation as a key focus and opportunity alongside marketing and branding. Great to see the investment going into process manufacturing capabilities, the adoption of new technology and AI. There's been a vast improvement over the satisfaction of Food East, I think in part because our value proposition is better known. Barriers to growth, access to capital, as I've mentioned, regulatory pressures have sort of grown quite considerably. That information helps us develop our programs and value proposition to business, but is also of use to the sector.
Yep. Give you 2 minutes, Michael, sorry.
Great, 2 more slides, I think, Chair. You will see in our statement of intent our measures and targets for the next financial year. I want to point out the main pillars that feature. One is on the commercial side, not surprisingly. The next 3, education, industry and capital, underpin our innovation program, and there's various measures which I won't go into. Happy to talk to them. And last slide is, the founding principles, the fundamentals are rock solid to have a facility such as Food East in the region. Evident by, as I've said, the growing instability of global macroeconomic climate. We've got a role to play to support regional resilience, a strategic regional asset to nurture the next generation of growing businesses and actually add value with a player in the supply chain, adding value to our primary sector products. Chair, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Michael. That was very comprehensive. Councillors will note recommendation C on page 13 to provide feedback. So I'd add, so if we have got some constructive feedback to give to any of the team. Councillor Watkins.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll just ask a question, please, just in relation to your financial performance targets. You say long-term financial expectations are that Food East Limited will be financially sustainable. Long-term is a piece of string. So what's your thinking? Is it 5 years? Is it 8 years? Is it 10 years? I mean, there's no benchmark long-term forever and a day.
Perhaps I can start, Councillor Watkins. I mean, I think in the Q2 report, you'll see that our initial forecasts are talking about the end of 2028. We basically run into a shortfall situation there. And I think the actual numbers are actually in the quarterly report of about $200,000 for the first year. The top priority of the board, I can assure you, every meeting we spend time with Michael basically looking at how we can actually bridge that gap and actually do it. And we'll be talking to limited partners this afternoon, indeed, about some strategies to help us through that as well. But that is clearly in the top of my mind, as you can well imagine. 2028.
Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I've been through it several times. Thank you. And it is impressive. And, there's a lot of things looking good about it. But just wondered, we built it, started building, 7 years ago or something, 8 years ago? Can't remember now. I just wondered, do we revalue the asset, the buildings and all the rest of it? And do we, because I couldn't find it in there. If it's there, I couldn't find it. Presumably, we're getting a capital return, even if we're not getting an operating return. Is that correct?
Yes, Councillor Nixon, we do revalue the property every year. In fact, we revalued it last year and actually came down, as you may recall, in the annual accounts. That was because we built the building when prices were high like this. And secondly, it was valued initially as a commercial property, but it isn't a pure commercial property. It's an innovation hub, if you like. So we do it every year, and we're going through that process right now for the annual accounts.
But the short answer is there's a substantial capital improvement over shareholder value.
Yes, indeed. If you look at the quarterly report, you'll see the shareholders' equity is about double what they've put in.
I've got copies of the last annual report. I've just left them up here so you can help yourself in the half-year report too.
Wonderful. Councillor Montepetro Hendry.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair.
that was timely. I haven't seen those. Just wondering how financially efficient you are and how you think you are, please.
Sure. Maybe I'll have a turn, but you guys help me. I think that I'm very proud of our financial efficiency. Essentially, there's things we can control and things we can't control, and we all know the macroeconomic climate that we came into. And I remember talking to our accountant who said, you must be due for some upside shock shortly, but it keeps getting harder, right? But within what we can control, I think the board and our staff are really, really critical thinkers about where we can save costs. We have extremely hardworking team. All of that we've achieved in the last year and a bit has been Michael 80% and 2 half-timers. So, you know, we're really, really, really running on fumes, but we can't. Innovation is an activity that requires investment. So while we're working on new revenue, that does require spending some money to do some stuff to get the new revenue. So we are always open to any, you know, suggestions, feedback about how we can do things better or differently. But while a lot of things keep me awake at night, I don't worry about our fiscal prudence. I claim myself to be quite a Scrooge within reason. But yeah, it's tough, there's no doubt.
Thank you. That's reassuring. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor T.R. Skipworth.
Thank you, Chair. You spoke about, you know, doing business as usual and looking for opportunities as well. The geopolitical climate is telling us that business as usual will actually become very unusual. So with the fuel poverty that could hit us here and looking for new tenants at Food East Haumako could mean that tenants will decide to work from home. And so that's a comment, but also the question is, I know we're a food hub, we're innovation hub, but have we looked at also having that as well as a diversification of what we deliver to help bring the finances up at the hub?
I'll start, but I feel like Tony has some comments. Absolutely, and I think one of the things that we'll be turning our minds to tomorrow, we have a board meeting, is the new context that we are working in and what that means strategically and how we can ensure that we are delivering what the region needs and will need. We are a bit constrained in terms of our funding agreement with Kānoa, and our all of our foundational documents say that we have to operate in the food, agri, innovation space. So it's not as narrow as food and beverage, but we do have a lane to stay in, which I think is really good, because you don't want to sort of try and boil the ocean. But I think that the approach that we take, I think, is a nice balance of sort of, I call it strategic opportunism. So we have a strategy, we're clear about how we can make a difference, but at the same time, we're listening to businesses and our community about how we can contribute in developing things in response. So we've sort of gone from, you know, a couple of wonderful buildings to a space where a lot is happening. And as Michael said, we're delivering on what businesses are telling us they need, but we need to keep hearing the messages and responding to them, which we do.
Supplementary, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We heard about your financial prudence, and we're grateful for that. As councillors, we're also tasked with financial prudence from our community. So, yeah, when you go into your meeting tomorrow, I'd just like that tabled as well, that we're tasked with financial prudence as well. Thank you.
Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Chair. I'm particularly interested in the innovation aspect of the hub. We need it more than ever in our food sector. I think you mentioned that you're still developing measures for innovation and being able to report that. Do we have to spend a lot of time doing that? Are there examples we can use, models we can use for that? I mean, we hear about measures of social return on investment, etc. Is there an innovation return on investment measure that we could tap into. We've had these reports now, I've been here from the start, and the focus is totally on financial. You're saying you're getting some innovation going. Myself, the next time we have a report, I'd like to see some measure of that innovation, rather than talking about the financial aspects all the time. So my question is, do we have to invent the wheel on that? And is there some models we can tap into?
Should I start?
Yeah.
I'll answer the general question, then Michael can talk to some specific examples. In my day jobs, I work in this space a lot, and it's always a challenge to measure the impact of innovation because we're not running the business that will get the benefit to the bottom line. And so there's, yes, there are models and there are learnings that that we feed in, but I would say it's not a simple science, but I think we again have a fit for purpose approach, and I'll let Michael talk to that some more.
Yeah, it's sort of no surprise that the obligations in the Kanoa funding agreement extend 6 years, and my observation around demonstrating outcomes from innovation are in the order of 3 to 6 years. We've started seeing those after 12 months, which is quite heartening, and we'll better describe those, over the coming months and years. Absolutely. But I do take on your point not to reinvent the wheel, and if there's other models out there that we can actually leverage, and Nikki, you have provided me one recently, we'll use it, certainly. Thank you.
And maybe I should just add, innovation is one of those words. It's a little bit kind of like sustainability, that it can be interpreted in myriad ways. And so one of the useful conversations that we had last year was with the team from Kanoa about how do they define innovation? What does it mean to them? Therefore, what should we be specifically doing? And that threw up these three pillars around capital, education, and industry, thank you. So that has allowed us to really hone in on those three things as the pillars that drive innovation by definition of the major funder. So that's kind of really helpful for us to then focus in on those three things as our pillars for our innovation part of our program.
Yeah, so coupled with that would be the reason that Tony mentioned that HDC was the initiator of the whole project, and there must have been some aspiration from HDC as to what we're going to achieve. So while we have Kanoa saying what they think, we should probably come back to what we set out to do ourselves.
Perhaps I can just comment on that. The initial business plan, and I think in the Kanoa agreement, did provide some sort of estimates, if you like, about what we were trying to achieve, which was talking about 500 full-time equivalent jobs over 10 years, and an increase in regional GDP by $100 million over 10 years. That gives you a bit of a feel for where they're looking.
Chair, if I could just help explain. Mr. Gray was Council's Chief Financial Officer at the time that this work was undertaken and led it, which is why he has such a strong understanding of that background.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just I have concerns, and no doubt you guys will share the concerns. The way Watty's pulled out of Peaches, first thing the orchardists do is they're going to rip out all those trees. They're closing down factories left, right and centre. We've got a very ageing complex at Watty's, Kraft. They're all about the bottom dollar, obviously. If they pull out of the Hawke's Bay altogether, and all our orchardists suddenly disappear because of the export issues with fuel, and all start cropping or go to dairy, is there a plan B? Have you thought about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know whether it's Food East Lane to answer that, but I think it's very topical, Councillor Gibson, on many people's minds. But I don't think that's a question. But do you want to have a go, Nikki?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've spent my career in the food industry, and I completely share your concerns and the sense of pain. And I think that while we can't solve all the problems, I do think that is where we strategically have to work, is really growing the next Watties, right? That we as a country, in my whole time of working, I started my professional life in the dairy industry, and we've talked about volume to value for however many decades I've been working, and we're not very good at it. And so I think that one of the contributions that Food East can make is to try to nurture those startups that could become the next Watties. We can't guarantee success, but I think that's where that sort of strategic opportunism comes, where we've tried our best to support local startups, to work with them, to provide what they need as much as we can. But it is a team effort, and I mean, I think that's one of the things that we've always really valued, is that by virtue of the shareholders that we have, we're really well placed to work together for the good of the region. You've got this incredible asset, we've got these amazing shareholders, like it's a massive team, and to the chair's point, we can't solve the problem, but I certainly see that we have a role as being part of the solution.
Yep, thank you. Councillor O'Keefe?
Hey, kia ora, Mr. Chair. Kia ora, everybody. Look, I'm of the opinion that the relationship, that's the real currency. It underpins everything, whether it's in the home and business. That's the real currency. So you sew up on your overhead, you are developing relationships with key players right across the region. I'd like to know, what does that look like? Who are they? And I'd like to see the fruits of that trickle down to the Flaxmeres of this world. Fair enough question?
Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough question. I am, yes, we have a lot of, a big vision, and I think that it's reasonable to say that our focus has been on the business community, perhaps at the expense of some other parts of our community, which I completely acknowledge. That is partly because of the pressure, that we have to be commercially sustainable, which we can't ignore, and the leanness of our team. But I'm 100% with you that, to me, there would be nothing that would make me happier than having a marakai on the grounds and having some community relationships. I think that our challenge is resourcing to make that happen, but I'm very, very keen to have discussions about how we could work together on that, how we could have more meaningful partnerships with those parts of the community that we haven't so much. And I guess with our work into the education sector, that could offer some opportunities. But I think we have to be realistic about the fact that we've got, effectively 2 full-time staff members. And so I don't want to kind of overpromise and underdeliver, but I do want to acknowledge that your point, and that it is something that I personally am quite passionate about. I just don't have a clear line of sight about how we could deliver it, but I think we can put it on the table to discuss.
Thank you. Councillor Lorcan?
Yes, through you, Chair Fowler. Just a quick question. You say you've got 16 tenants at the moment. I'm just wondering how aggressively Food East pursuing local businesses and national businesses, even international businesses, as an expansion vehicle. And I mean, it's all very well to sort of say we're Food East and we're here, and this is what we do. But in this climate, when people are paddling underwater, just trying to keep their own businesses going or get their startups just kind of going, often you need to be, you need to offer solutions. Go to businesses and say, here's a plan, here's a solution for you. We've been thinking about you. We've been thinking about your business and how we can make your business better and how we can help your business launch. I'm just curious about how aggressive your team are in terms of pursuing those options to increase your tenancy and business.
I think the answer is that we are a lean team, and so we can't really do the one-to-one. We have to more focus on the one-to-many, and so that's where the programs that Michael and the team have got going around innovation breakfasts, investor forums, and again with our survey, that's where we're trying to tap into what do businesses need, what is the demand, and therefore what can we design and deliver. And I guess with our board and staff connections, we often hear, like this last week I was talking to a local business who said, what we really need is access to mentors. You know, we're a sort of startup, we're going through this growing pain, and we'd love to talk to someone who's done that. And so, again, it's that sort of strategic opportunism where I could connect with someone immediately, but then Mike and I are discussing tomorrow, that's a need, as it is. First of all, we have to validate that need. Is it just one business, or is it actually a broader need? If so, can we support with the networks we've developed that need? And I think that the other challenge we have is you have to be quite careful not to be trying to do everything and responding to every, like being a magpie. So we developed a reasonably simple matrix last year to screen things, because I could be a bit guilty of going, oh, Michael, we should do this. So we have some process around that. I think we've been pretty proactive in the tenancy search. We've engaged a couple of professional real estate agent people, but Michael goes and talks to people all the time. So I think we're doing our best, but we're always open to new suggestions, 100%. Like, we're in this together, so we're always happy to hear what we could do better.
Okay. Supplementary, if I may. Thank you very much. It was, as a new councillor, it's good to hear that, and I wasn't here in the setup of it. I will add though sometimes that some businesses don't know what they need until you tell them. So that's all. I'll leave that. Thank you.
Totally appreciate that, and yeah, it's again something we can turn our minds to. It pays to be prodded. I mean, we're always happy to be prodded.
Yep, thank you. Ms. Sholem?
Thank you, Chair. Michael, Nikki, Tony, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the journey that Food East has gone on. This is one where we had given it back into the tune of 12 million, which speaks volumes to the vision that was shared. However, it's been a rocky road, and we're still on that rocky road. And I do acknowledge that I have watched you all adapt as much as possible. And as you have mentioned, it's a bit of a sniff of an oily rag set up at the moment, and the ongoing tension of trying to be commercially viable while also adhering to the requirements of being an innovation hub. And I do acknowledge that tension can be at odds at times. So I do just want to take that moment to do that, and also acknowledge the innovations that you've brought in terms of the investor group, in terms of looking at innovation club members and whatnot too. So on that basis, if you're happy, Chair, I am actually very happy to move the recommendations as they stand in the report, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sholem. Councillor Noah Ustik.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned that regulatory pressure sort of weighs on your minds quite a bit. I'm assuming that is from the constraints of the Provincial Growth Fund, but is there anything the HDC can help to ease that pressure?
The regulatory pressures I referred to came from industry, from our industry survey. We need to go back and actually delve deeper into that. Suffice to say that we had the Deputy General, Deputy Secretary?
Deputy Director General.
For food safety here last year, and held a forum where they could engage with industry. So we are immersed in that ecosystem. You referenced to the regulatory compliance in relation to Kānoa certainly translate into a different set of challenges that we've got to work with, or boundaries we've got to work with and deliver on.
Thank you, Councillor. So we have a mover, Mayor Sholem. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Nixon. All those in favour of the please. Aye. Against? Thank you, Michael, Tony and Nikki, especially you, Nikki. You just got here in the skin of time. We blew our budget of time on you, but I think councillors were very engaged, and I hope you found that you had some valuable feedback from what they said to you. But thank you for attendance today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now invite Dave Simmons of the board of Chair of Hawke's Bay Tourism. Well, welcome, Dave. So Mr. Saxton has put in his apology today. So once again, Dave, you can take your report as as read, but you may like to provide some highlights or summary or regard.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to come and provide this update on Hawke's Bay tourism to you as a council. Just re-emphasising the apologies for Hamish, who'd love to have been here, but he's actually off representing Hawke's Bay at a regional tourism organisation of New Zealand conference in Auckland, ironically. As the Chair has indicated, I'm going to run through some slides to add a bit more depth and colour, if you like, and context to the detailed report that you have already received, and then we'll create some space for questions and answers at the end of that, if that's okay. I assume from the technology, we're going to whiz straight over that first one. So from the first 6 months of the year were challenging, to say the least. But having said that, I'm very, very proud of what our small team has been able to achieve in the face of those challenges. Some of the key things we've had to work through, the consolidation and stabilisation of the organisation post the funding, the change in funding. We had to restructure the organisation, then re-employ on short-term contracts. We had the sudden passing of our chair, which was very destabilising, as you can imagine. And then we had to reshape the governance structure as a result of that. That's a lot for any organisation to work through, let alone a small organisation. And in addition to that, we also had the prospect of having to secure our immediate short-term funding, if you like, but beyond the end of this financial year. I guess actually within that context, I'd also just like to take a moment to thank Hastings District Council, the Mayor, the Council, the Executive and the officers for your unwavering support. And I'm not referring financial, your support in terms of the value of the visitor economy and the role that Hawke's Bay tourism plays with that, within that is hugely appreciated. And during that period of change, I've got to say, and particularly some of the guidance that we had from CEO particularly, was very reassuring and sort of gave me great confidence, if you like, in terms of being able to lean into the challenges ahead. So thank you for that. We also had to, and again, I want to recognise, we had to spend some time as an organisation realigning ourselves with the different funding structure. You know, for the preceding 13 years, we'd had a singular funding model, if you like, and we were very aligned and clear around what we needed to deliver into that funding environment. The change, obviously, led to change of expectations of funders, and that's to be expected. And we acknowledge that, and as an organisation, in that context of significant change, have been working very actively to, figure out how and what that alignment looks like. I think we're making good progress in terms of getting alignment, whether that's at a strategic level, whether that's at an organisational level, whether how we work together and collaborate at a sort of a in-market perspective. As I alluded to, securing short-term funding, you'll all be aware of the, I assume you're all aware in terms of the disparity of funding that was put forward from your co-funders into Hawke's Bay Tourism, which certainly created a challenge. And we were very focused over that 6-month period of engaging to get a positive outcome to bring their funding commitment up to a similar level to Hastings District Council. And as of today, we are sort of reliably informed that there is a commitment subject to ratification that they will match that funding, which is quite a significant result and gives us confidence as we look forward to the next 12 months. And I think the important thing to highlight and recognise is that we've also been very focused on the day job. Fundamentally, we're here to promote tourism and the visitor economy for the benefit of all stakeholders within the region. And I think the team, again, in that context of change, have done a fabulous job. We have initiated some new campaigns. We have driven significant media coverage. We have undertaken significant trade and event activity. And we've also worked very diligently with central government to secure our fair share of funding from MB in terms of the various initiatives that they have had in play. So we haven't simply been focusing on survival, we're very focused around delivering into the day job as well.
During the first half of the year, sorry, I'll got to do the old flicker. During the first half of the year, one of the initiatives that was kicked off and was commissioned by READER was a review of the value of the visitor economy to the region, and indeed the structure within which that visitor economy is supported and promoted. It was an independent review. We were party to it, but we weren't a sort of a sponsor of it per se. And I guess from a governance perspective, we were particularly intrigued as to what the output might be. We weren't sure about what it would look like. I guess at a highlight level, I assume you've all had the opportunity to have a look at it. It's a very heavy document, apologies for that. But it certainly talks to the value of the visitor economy to the region, both at an economic level, but also at an employment level. 7,600 jobs are estimated to be linked to the visitor economy. Over 750 million of direct GDP contribution, and the ripple effect of that extending beyond $1 billion. So material, and I think we're all aware of the scale of that. And actually, I go back to the previous speakers around the impact of food. Well, let's grow the visitor economy together. But one of the things that came out of it, there are a number of recommendations and insights. We took a lot of learnings out of it from a board perspective, but there were some key observations and recommendations, and in no particular order. There was an interest, there was a positive lens towards an independent RTO. As you'll be aware, there are a number of different models across the country, but there was a view that that independent RTO actually provided greatest value, strong value to the region, in particular the way in which the region is comprised. There was an acknowledgement around funding and the sort of, I guess, the lack of certainty around funding and the impact that has had over a period of time in terms of being able to deliver. And one of the other key things that came out, I guess, which certainly resonated strongly with me personally, was the need to refresh the visitor strategy. My observation, having been involved with Hawke's Bay tourism for some time, is that it's got such, as a region, we've got such potential, but we don't have strong alignment, and we've got to get better at alignment. Now, there was a visitor strategy done in 2022, partially funded out of central government at the time when they were promoting destination management. And there was collaboration into that strategy, if you like. But what was clear from the Martin Jenkins report was that it wasn't embedded in any way, shape or form. There was very limited awareness of it, and it needed to be refreshed. And I guess as part of the sort of change of funding, we saw it as an opportunity to lean into it, to actively refresh the visitor strategy and really look at it from a completely sort of new, fresh set of eyes, so to speak. And with that, we have initiated a review of the visitor strategy. And I want to stress, this is not the Hawke's Bay tourism strategy. This is the regional visitor strategy that we, I guess, are facilitating. We've engaged a private, an independent consultant, David Ehrman. He is an expert in regional marketing, destinational marketing, and having an independent facilitator is hugely valuable.
Sorry, Dave, I'm going to have to move you along. I think councillors took part in this. So
yeah, indeed.
I think they're aware, so just give us a speed date, 2-minute summary. That'd be really fantastic.
No problem at all. So again, thank you for your input on that. We expect to have an output from that towards the end of May. And again, we're going far and wide. One of the key little things out of that, we're looking to engage even with regions that aren't directly funding into. It's important that it's a regional strategy from a mana whenua, from a broad geographical area. So we'll be engaging, I know, and again, thank you for your input on that. Just also want to acknowledge Fork, won't talk in detail on this, but we had to pull the plug on that as part of our funding cuts. We realised that particularly within Hastings District Council, there were a number of constituents who had views around that, and we needed to re-engage with that. So we have instigated a sort of an industry review, if you like, to get input and thoughts around how, if there's value in the concept, and if indeed there is, how we bring it forward again. And we will again share updates with that in due course. Central government, I just want to touch on this. Obviously, it's documented within the half-year report. I just want to make a key point here, right? This is not sort of additional funding. So all of a sudden, we don't have $1.8 million worth of funding. It's certainly not locked in for the next 12, beyond the current tactical play. This is central government funding from MB supporting specific initiatives. And our role from an RTO perspective is to make sure we put our best case forward to get our fair share of that funding so we can then amplify the activity that we are doing within region. And again, the team has been very successful in doing that, whether that's from a promotional activity or indeed supporting events. There is a lot of dialogue going on at the moment in central government around different tourism funding models. It changes on a monthly basis. And I think the visitor refresh, the strategy refresh is critical, and having a strong voice at that table is really critical at this point in time. Don't know what the outcomes will be, but there's every RTO in the country is in the same position that we are in at this stage, and central government acknowledged that. And finally, next 6 months, key focus, continue delivering on the day job, on the operational deliveries that we are committed to. We are committed to completing the Hawke's Bay Visitor Strategy refresh. We have the Great Wine Capitals Conference and AGM coming up in October, so deep planning going on at this stage. We really want to embed that regional marketing alignment, making sure that we're working smartly together as opposed to in silos. And obviously, as part of that visitor strategy refresh, that will then enable us to engage positively and in an aligned manner in that LTP process. So we're really focusing on getting our ducks in order, working well with the region to make sure we're prepared for that.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor Jessup.
Kia ora, Chair. Thank you, Dave, for your report. This is my second triennium as a Takitami Ward Councillor. My concern is that there's nothing about tangata whenua, there's nothing about Pacifica in that vision. I think I brought it up last time, and I think we need to work successfully together, because you're talking about mana whenua, tangata whenua, but we aren't mentioned in your vision. So how can you? I know there's a review that's been when we were part of that, but please don't give us lip service, because we've only got a short term to actually make an impact, and we're here sitting here waiting for the parity as ratepayers. I need to bring that up, because as tangata whenua, as Treaty of Waitangi partners, where are we going to go in the next 10 years? We need to be there. And I think I've actually said that, Hamish. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor. Listen, as part of, we recognise that we need to engage in partnership with mana whenua. I think if you look at the organisation has been through a lot of change, actually. You go back, I'm trying to think, it was probably 9-10 years ago, when we made a commitment with Regional Council to ensure there was representation on Hawke's Bay tourism, and it was really positive. We learned, we moved forward a lot through that process, and we had 3 different representatives through that process. Unfortunately, Carl Wixon resigned to move away, I think it was early last year, and because of the uncertainty of where the organisation was, and indeed whether it was even in existence, at that stage we weren't in a position to sort of fill that role, if you like. Our absolute commitment as part of the visitor strategy refresh is to engage on an equal partnership manner and look at how we weave that ambition together. We haven't talked about ambition per se within that 6-month review. It will be stipulated as, or it will be articulated as part of that visitor refresh. We want to make sure all stakeholders and partners have a view in what that ambition looks like.
Can I just finish off with the regional event coordination that you've got on page 69? There's 2 events that are missing out of there, especially Toitu Te Reo and the Matariki celebrations, because they are run from here and with Napier. So please, we are here. We need to be in this report.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly. We'll sort that with Dave afterwards. Thanks. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Golly, 6 years ago, it was a pandemic. 3 years ago, it was a cyclone, and now we've got a world war. Yeah, and you just wonder where all this is going to head to. I'm sort of interested to know if you got an initial reaction as to how things might be shaping up in the future with these things going on, because they seem to be never ending. Have you sort of thought of any change of direction? The latest thing, might we see more local visitors or what? Just your opinion, I'm looking for.
No, indeed. Thanks, Councillor. I think from any tourism strategy perspective, having a diverse customer base is important. It highlights the importance of that domestic customer. The domestic customer is always the first to rebound back into market. Whether it was COVID, whether it was post the cyclone, that domestic customer is the first one to come through the doors. So we need to make sure we're really clear around who that customer is, and getting alignment between Hastings District Council, with Napier Council, with Wairoa. Who is that customer we want to attract in here, and making sure we're aligned. I acknowledge Hawke's Bay tourism probably got a little bit narrow on some of its focus per se, and we need to get better alignment on that so that we can really make sure that domestic market's going strongly. But there's a whole conversation around the sort of broader macro tourism, global macro tourism. The Australian market remains very important to us, and again will be a resilient part of this journey, if you like, even if it is a prolonged conflict in the Middle East.
Have you seen anything yet? I mean, have you seen any effect, or it's just carried on because it was already set in place?
The only effect that we've seen, I'm involved in a number of different travel and tourism businesses, is forward bookings for January, February next summer are a little slow and soft at the moment, as you might expect. Yep. And certainly in terms of the current shoulder season and winter, not seeing any changes at this stage. Travel that is booked and committed is being travelled.
Thank you. Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for sharing your kaupapa with us today. So I'm a first-time councillor. And I love how you're talking about alignment. And I just want to back on to Councillor Jessup's corridor around alignment. So Māori tourism is a $1.2 billion industry. And here in Hawke's Bay, we have kaupapa like Waitangi Day. We have Matariki events. We have Toitū Te Reo. We have Kapahaka Regionals. So these are some big significant events. So my question is, when we're talking about alignment, are you guys in those rooms with those organisers feeding into that, and are they requesting support from you guys?
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. And there's multiple answers to that question. It's a complex environment. We do seek to actively support where we can. Where support is certainly required, we lean into it. We offer support, and sometimes organisations are feeling confident in terms of where they're at and are happy on that pathway. Now, that's at a tactical level. I think it's a broader opportunity in terms of how we reset that relationship, which I think is what we really need to keep focused on.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question from the chair? It seems to be are you confident, Dave, in terms of Māori tourism, that you've got enough feeding into you for the organisation, the RTO?
No, at the moment, if I'm really honest. We need to, and again, with that funding confidence of extended funding, if you like, beyond June, we do have a gap from a governance perspective that we do need to lean back into and backfill. It has been a very, very valuable partnership, if you like, up until Carl stepped away. So we do need to lean into that.
Yeah, I'm just picking that up because we've got some good feedback from two councillors here. So perhaps we can, that can be taken up with Ms. Roebuck afterwards. Yep, thank you. Councillor Watkins?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just looking at your visitor day and card spend for the month of November, and just a comment, please. I noticed international visitors, Hastings got twice the number of Napier, but in the card spend, we got only just over half the value. Now, you talk about visitor days. Does day include a day-night visit, or is day a daylight visit? I just want to understand, why is there a huge disparity? We've got the visitors, but we're not getting the spend. Does that relate to perhaps accommodation at night?
Indeed. So it will be a 24-hour period, councillor, and within that there will be, it's how that spend is constituted, let's say. So accommodation will be a key part of it, as well as attractions and spend on food and beverage within that. So without having the detail in front of me, it's hard to answer specifically, but it will be that behavioural pattern, if you like, on a 24-hour period.
And my second question, if I may, look, just looking ahead, and we hope it doesn't happen, but the fuel crisis, if it really got bad here, domestic travellers have got to come by car, they've got to use fuel. If that was to stop, are you thinking, I mean, rail, bus, any other forms of transport to get visitors in here? Is that sort of going through your mindset at this stage?
To be honest, we haven't thought through, to that extent, and no is probably my default kind of answer on it. What you tend to find in these sort of scenarios is people kind of trade back, if you like. So instead of going to Fiji, for example, the Pacific Islands, they may look at a domestic holiday. So people are still typically want to get away, but they just change where they aim for, right? So we've got to make sure that we're able to connect with people, so that some of the core people that may have been coming may not choose to come, they may stay home, but there'll be others who, within that domestic market, that we can connect with, who will choose to holiday domestically as opposed to offshore. So not looking at other forms of transport at this stage, it's really about making sure we're connecting to the right potential audience who has the appetite to travel.
Yep, thank you. Ms. Sholem?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to acknowledge, I'm not sure there's terribly many things that council invests in that gets a return of $514 for every dollar invested. So that's happy news. We like hearing that. I also acknowledge that central government, this particular government, is investing heavily in tourism in terms of attracting people to New Zealand. And of course, our obligation is to then get them to Hawke's Bay and more specifically Hastings. So acknowledge how vital it is, the work that you do in that area. And I also just want to take a moment as well to acknowledge that I have seen Hawke's Bay tourism in the past adapt to some pretty horrific global shocks in terms of COVID. One of my favourite memories was when Hawke's Bay Tourism rolled out a campaign focused on Wellington to get them here during COVID because we couldn't attract our international visitors. And nothing brought me greater joy than to walk into a cellar door, see Hamish there, and happen to have the room filled with Wellingtonians. So it was a really good measure. So that is my very long way, Mr. Chair, of saying I'm very happy to move the recommendations.
Wonderful, thank you, Ms. Sholem. Councillor T.R. Skipworth?
Thank you, Chair. It's not really, it's a question, but happy for you to bring back some information if that's okay.
Sure.
You talked about the complexities. My fellow Māori councillors talked about the missing events for Māori events. Iron Māori is another one as well. But in terms of the economic benefit for those travelling in, that's looking great for those that we have on the event schedule. But if you could bring back something that tells us what weighting you used of who you're going to support. And the reason I ask that is we have the Hawke's Bay Marathon, which we're grateful for. They're not a local business. They're not even a New Zealand business. And we have events here that are locally owned and operated, which means the money that comes in through registrations stays in the region. So if we could just bring something back about how you weight who you support. Kia ora.
Noted.
Thank you.
Yep, I think if you're happy, Councillor T.R. Skipworth, we can take an action about this and the points raised by your fellow Takitimu councillors as well, and we will have discussions with Hawke's Bay Tourism if that's fine. Is that okay? Wonderful. Councillor Corbyn?
Happy to second.
Wonderful, thank you. Right, no more discussion. All those in favour say aye for the recommendations. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Dave, for coming across. First time wasn't so bad, was it really? No.
Thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, wonderful. Good on you. So we'll be back in contact. Councillors, what I'm going to suggest now is we have Jenny come and do her report. Then we'll have a break for after. What's that? Oh, John, is it? But have you got all the? Are you the only one, John, or? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Jenny, we'll just move to Jenny for health and safety, and then we'll move on to afternoon tea. That's right. No problem. I was scanning around for them. I couldn't see that. So this is item 9 on your agenda, councillors. So Item 9, sorry. Health and safety report. Policy, sorry, health, safety and wellbeing policy. Jenny, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is quite a short report. The gist of it is that the health, safety, wellbeing policy was reviewed last year, and it was endorsed by the council at the time. But we have a new council now, and it's pertinent to bring it to you to consider for re-endorsement. And if endorsed, then we would update the policy to be signed by the mayor as part of the current committee. So I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions on the policy? We'll take it as being read. Councillor Monteperto Hendry.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Are we allowed to play with wordsmithing a tiny bit?
For the recommendation.
No, not the recommendation,
For the
just
what?
on the policy.
For the policy, yes, you can give provide feedback. Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't get a chance. It was stupid o'clock. Anyway, I just have, how do we, when we speak about our communities and our health and safety and looking at all of our climate changes and what could happen, how do we sort of get in there that we're also empowering them to be resilient? We might be overusing that word, but it doesn't have to happen right now. But how do we get that in and then maybe come back that they are strong or buoyant and empowered in that, and that is health and safety as well. And the other one is we're not putting in, when we are demonstrating wellbeing and culture within their organisations and we are maintaining our assets, I just do wonder if we put in that we're protecting our taiao as well. We haven't captured our whenua in here, and I think that's what we stand on.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Monteperto Hendry. Are you happy for that to be in action to come back with some wording? Jenny will do that. And
If everyone's happy with that, so I don't know how we do that with a recommendation.
yep, no, that's fine. Just note it. We'll just note it as a. I don't think that matters because we're just basically. Yep, Jenny.
Just for a matter of process, so you recognise that we will take those. We have to go back to the organisation. We have to consult with staff as well on any changes to policy.
Okay.
But happy to do that if that's the direction that you want us to do.
Yep. Thank you. So is there general support amongst councillors for that? To do that? Councillor Mayor Sholem, sorry.
Just a question from me. How arduous is that, Jenny? Like, with absolute respect to the requested changes, if that's going to take significant time, resource and money, I'd just like to understand that. Yes, good question. So I would need to draft up a policy with suggested changes that would need to be distributed out to the organisation, but it's not too onerous. It would be out by email and then people can give feedback on it, and then we would bring it to the lead team to consider and then back to you, but that could take some time. Another suggestion would be that this policy would be up for renewal again in another, not this year, but next year. So whether or not it's considered to hold that until it's come for its normal renewal. If I may, Mr. Chair, given next year is part of our LTP process too, I do wonder if the timing sort of better aligned, because we'll be reviewing all things, and it sounds like the timing kind of aligns with this. I wonder if Councillor Monteperto Hendry would be happy to hold fire until that time.
Yeah, and for efficiencies, definitely, but I'm really keen to capture that because I think it's a gap. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Now we know it's not as not as easy as just changing some words. So thank you for that clarification. So could we have a mover, please? Councillor Lorcan and Councillor Radcliffe second. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you to those who are joining us live stream. We're just going to have about a 10-minute break for afternoon tea, a bit of a break. So we will resume in about 10 minutes' time. Thank you. 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 10 minutes' time. Thank you. About 10 minutes' time. Thank you. About 10 minutes' time. Thank you. Right, everybody, we're ready to rock probably in about a minute. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't like this.
We good? Okay. Welcome back, everybody, and those of you who are joining us again on live stream. We're now coming to the final of our reports from external entities, of which Hastings District Council has an interest in, and I'd like to welcome CE Nick Flack, CFO Rachel Ham, and Chair, my favourite accountant, John Nicol. Was that you, Bruce? Anyway, so welcome. So just slip that in. Right, so welcome. So Nick and Rochelle will do a presentation, just pulling out some highlights, and then there'll be an opportunity to do some questions. So you pulled rank, so Mr. Nicol will pull rank.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm John Nichols. I'm the chair of Hawke's Bay Airport. There is a few new faces around here, so kia ora to you all. It's great to be in front of you as a 24% owner of this fabulous asset called Hawke's Bay Airport. Rochelle and Nick know all the detail, and as the chair, I'm only going to say three things, but I think they're three material ones. As a shareholder, just to give you a feel that for 20 years, airports by law have to prepare 3-year rolling plans, right? Which just seems so foolish when we've got 10-year asset management plans, 10-year financial models, 50-year long-term network plans. So just like you have to prepare a 10-year plan, we've got a picture that'll be going on our website in June that shows what we'd kind of like to look like in 2035, which has got us maintaining electric planes, cargo holds, whatever could be happening in 2035. So that as a board, when we sign off the 3-year plan that we provide to shareholders, it's got to be roughly in sync with this picture. So I think that's a major change that we're trying to look at a little bit further. The second point I wanted to highlight, and Nick will touch on shortly, is the board's got a lot of faith in the exec team around delivery. We've had 4 or 5 major projects, complicated projects like changing airport lights that have been there for 40 and 50 years, building fire stations, tar sealing car parks, and all projects have been materially on time, on budget, with no health and safety incidences. So and that flows through because we want to pay dividends and stuff, so we want our capital program to be nailed, and so far it's been very, very good. And the last point, of course, would be remiss as the chair if I didn't talk about the Middle East and conflicts that are happening there. We had a board meeting today, and much like yourselves, we've tasked management with some, don't panic, but we need some sensible scenario planning about what would happen if there was no jet fuel. So instead of trimming a schedule, it was trimmed to here, highly unlikely at this moment, but that's what contingency planning is all about. So I wanted to give you comfort as shareholders that we just talked about that 2 hours ago, and that's a key task of management. So that was all I wanted to do. I'll get lost in the details, so I'll throw it over to my left.
Thank you. Welcome, Nick.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. I'm going to try and keep it to about 5 minutes to allow fulsome questions at the end. Next slide, please. So what we hope to touch on is the performance in the first 6 months of the financial year, give you slightly more detail than what John's provided in terms of our updated strategic plan, and then talk to our priority initiatives in the financial year 27 to 29. So, you reckon?
So just in terms of key highlights for our performance, we are tracking really, really well, well ahead of SOI. So our profit after tax
for our 6 months was 74% ahead of what our SOI was. I think there's a couple of key things that are driving that. One is landing fees. We renegotiated our consultation with Air New Zealand really well last year, and in hindsight, timing was really good. So we negotiated an extra $2 per pax as part of that. And we've also obviously increased car park pricing. So that's really contributing to good revenues, while at the same time we're managing what we're spending and how we're spending that. The only other thing that we really wanted to call out was we still continue to invest in critical infrastructure. The fire station is now live and is a really great asset, which we're good to share with people as time goes on.
And then to pull out the highlights and then roll into the Iran conflict and our planning. So you'll see we are ahead of budget significantly. We're investing in critical infrastructure. But then in terms of our plan going forward, we are monitoring and controlling and reducing capital where appropriate. We've stood up an executive group with external expertise that weekly looks out at where are we going, how bad could this get, how many quarters do we have with our financial situation, what are the triggers in terms of us as an airport needing to act, and critically, how are we going to know, and how are we going to know early and act early in the best interest of both this region and our financial situation. As John touched on, we have spent the last 6 months making sure that we are concentrated on a 10-year aspiration. That aspiration is to make sure that we have good commercial strength, where that we've got a sustainable long-term business with diversified revenue, and without the need for shareholder funding whilst continuing to pay dividends. And our dividend payment from last year is imminent. We also want to make sure that as an airport we are innovative and we're agile and we're delivering a good customer experience, and we're using technology to enable a compliant and best practice operation. And the last two is we want to elevate our role in this region. Instead of an airport where planes land, it's an airport that enables a region to flourish. And to do that, we need to make sure that our leadership is strategic and is bold. So in terms of updating a couple of strategic assumptions that we take forward in terms of our long-term planning and our asset management planning, is that for now we're a leading turboprop airport. And what that means is that it avoids a $19 million investment in the infrastructure required to cater for scheduled passenger jets. 19 million is in the context of 110 million total asset value. But it also enables a better traveller experience. Travellers in this region don't need to spend half an hour in security to get on an hour-long flight. It also keeps the landing charges at a level that encourages Air New Zealand to grow long-term in our region. The other strategic assumption is that we diversify adjacent to our core. So that's in everything we do. We want to make sure that our revenue is maximised in what kind of planes are on our facility. So not just Air New Zealand, it's a training centre, it's private jets, it's tier 2 operators. It's diversifying in our terminal and our passenger experience around what does car parking look like in the future and what does terminal retail look like. But then it's also diversifying what we do on our 240 hectares of land as well. And property and solar are two options that we're investigating at the moment. So that vision that John's talked about and started to introduce is in 2035, we as an airport want to be diversified, we want to be a regional enabler, and we want to be a recognised leader in customer experience and operations. And that leads through to the strategic priorities that are outlined in the Statement of Intent. Next slide, please. That you've all seen, that's in your pack, with the strategic priorities in the 5 areas of our operations. So we break our business down into 5Ps: planes, passengers, portfolio, people, and profile. And just to quickly touch on each one of those fives, in planes, we want to make sure that we've got a really productive relationship with Air New Zealand, where we are growing the tourism product for this region, and that we make sure that our operations are moving towards best practice, particularly in wildlife management, which presents our largest operational risk. In the terminal, we want to make sure that we accentuate the retail. We've, in the last year, gone through a change out in food and beverage operator there. That operator's increased turnover by about 30% year on year, and there are other opportunities for retail in that terminal. Likewise, there's other opportunities for how we provide a car parking service that is more seamless and using digital to do that right across our customer journey. Then we're talking about in portfolio is investigating continuation of that solar farm and getting that consented and moving to construction. And the other ones, the people ones, are standard, making sure that we're good regional leaders, that we've got leadership that our region's proud of, and that we're using digital to enhance everyone in our organisation, whether that be a staff, a stakeholder, or a customer. And then finally, we want to make sure that we're partnering across this region with stakeholders to deliver a long-term ambition around growing tourism in our region and providing a better level of service to our travelling public as well.
Yep. Thank you, Nick. So, councillors, time for questions. Once again, draw your attention to recommendation C about any feedback to the 26-27 statement of intent. Provide any feedback that would be most useful to the chair and Nick and Rochelle. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm sort of juggling notes and iPads and things, there's stuff everywhere. I think the statement of intent talked about attempting to increase passenger numbers through the airport somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but I did see it there. And yet in another part of the report, it talked about a reduction in capacity. I think 5% was the figure mentioned. And that's before the current possibility of further reductions in capacity. So I couldn't find any mention of load factor, which is obviously going to be a critical element. Because I see the airport really, it doesn't worry me too much whether you're making money or not. What worries me is whether you're bringing people in and taking people out, because it's really like a railway station. Its real purpose is to oil the economy, to lubricate it. So just to get that bit straight. So how can we increase passenger numbers, according to the statement of intent, if the number of available seats, the capacity is going down, with the promise of more reductions? And that seems sort of a bit at odds, one statement with the other, forgetting what's just happening now. And I'll ask another question just before you ask that. Any feeling as to what's actually going on at the moment?
Going on where?
Not on the planes.
So we'll just deal with the first question.
All right,
We'll
I'll ask
down
that
to
the
that.
second
Yeah, okay.
question. Thank you.
I think in terms of passenger numbers, it's something that we've seen all year. We've had a couple of months which we've been on SOI, but our SOI in hindsight was probably quite ambitious. But if we look at what we've planned over the next 3 years, you'll notice that there's actually a drop in passengers planned, particularly in FY27, and then we start to build back. So there's a couple of things that reflects the drop in capacity that we're sort of seeing up till the last week. And then come FY28, we're starting to see jets come back into the market, which should free up ATRs to come back to regional ports that have been doing city routes. So that's where some growth will come.
Can I co-answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question, Simon. It takes a village to grow the passenger numbers.
Yeah.
So we can say we want to, and we should grow. We got a terminal that we got 600,000 people in and out. We can handle 900,000. It was built big on purpose, so we only had to build it once, and that was it. But it does take a village we need tourism support. We need people wanting to come here. You know, we're ready for it, but if we say that we're going to drive that on our own, it's fable land, to be honest. It does take a village. It takes all of us to contribute to get people to come here, but we can handle 900,000 without a lot of increase in cost, right? So but if we said we're gonna do it ourselves, it'd be fictitious, to be honest.
That's fine. I probably would have tried to give the same answer myself if somebody's asked me the question. Now, the other question I had, which I also asked Tourism Hawke's Bay when they were here, do you have a feeling for what's actually going on at the moment? I mean, is there any signs of any change in sort of basic passenger demand, etc.? Can you just give us also a really brief summary of how you see things?
Sure. So, like Rochelle said, our load factors are in the 80s. There's decent demand on Auckland and Christchurch. Wellington's been a bit harder. And you're right to call out the difference between capacity and load factor. So that there's been changes in capacity, particularly in the last month. But the people are still able to travel because we're fortunate in Hawke's Bay to have 24 return trips out in and out of our region, which is we're well serviced with good frequency currently. But like John said, we need a real concerted effort across all of our region to make sure that we are trying to attract visitors to this region, given that the demographics are not a massively increasing population base, or the propensity to travel is not changing in this region either. The uplift in passenger demand is going to be getting our tourism story right and getting it coordinated across a region that is speaking in unison.
Could I just supplement the comment? You talked about jets, but you're not talking to Hawke's Bay, are you? You're talking about in the network.
I'm talking about...
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
So just to be clear, what we want is high frequency number of turboprop movements rather than putting our money on large infrastructure investment that would see a jet coming in and out of here.
In our language, if there's 10 flights a day to Auckland, if turboprops, if there was jets, it'd be 3. So I fly all the time. I kind of like 10, but it does mean that it's a little bit slower on the turboprop, but frequency really matters, right? And we would be approaching shareholders for equity if we needed that 20 million. So all the shareholders we talk to say turboprops are great.
Next question, moving along, we shareholders. Councillor Montepetto Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just in your partnerships and everything that you're doing is really awesome, pairing up with Hawke's Bay Tourism. Just looking at your resilience section and your climate and infrastructure resilience, the work you're doing there, are you involved with the coastal hazard strategy, the community groups, the focus groups, and how are you guys working there, please? Thank you.
I think the key piece of work we're doing there, we link into all the inundations reports and things through, we use a tool called Resilience Explorer. And so we've mapped all our assets and can start overlaying what's happening, and we use that to drive some of our decisions around that. So we also work with councils on what the next steps are.
And I would just say that we take a lot of pride in the work that we've done in that area. We've won awards for the fact that we are leading the charge in understanding how climate's going to impact on our facilities, and making sure that we like to say that we're going to be high and dry for 60 to 80 years, and we need to make sure that that's backed up with science, which we've done.
If I may ask a second, so if you're front-footing it, that's amazing. If there's any way that information could be shared with the works that we must be working in silo here, so it would be really cool to connect those two, because there's a lot of work being done in the Northern South. Thank you.
Sure. Do you want to take that as an action, Councillor Montepetto Henry? Yep, thank you. That's done. Councillor Watkins.
Well, thank you, Chair. And welcome and good to see you, John. I think you probably know what's coming.
I'm looking forward to it. Councillor Watkins.
Look, you state that people are the foundation of your industry, and we all agree with that. For the last 6 reports that have been presented to this council, I've asked that in the arrival terminal, when people come in, how nice if just a 7-letter word that said welcome. For the last 4 reports, I've always been told, yes, we're working on that, it's going up. I know it wasn't up on the 30th of December, it might be up by now, but could, you know, it's just something when people walk into a new place, if you just welcome its warmth.
So on each side of the arrival doors from the outside, air side, there are actually welcome to Hawke's Bay signs. And now when you walk in the terminal, we've got the Great One Capital signage included in there. So that has happened, and there are other things in progress.
Yeah, okay, because I walked through and I couldn't find it. I know there's a welcome to the airport as you're departing the airport. I see that sign before you get to the terminal as you're departing the airport, but I haven't seen one. I just think in the terminal, when you get off the plane, you get into the arrival hall, welcome to Hawke's Bay, something like that. It just makes a world of difference to a people experience.
And I'm sorry that you've had to ask 6 times. So we will make sure that we take away as an action before I present again that there is a photo of the welcome to Hawke's Bay in our terminal in our next report.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe?
Thank you. Through the chair, Nick Ratcliffe, first time councillor. Yeah, thank you for all the work that you do at the airport. I've been through it a few times in the last few months, and yeah, it's clearly fit for purpose, fit for capacity, and it's a comfortable experience every time. I just wanted to ask about the current possible fuel shortage that we're experiencing at the moment. I'm conscious that it's being framed currently as the conflict in Iran, but this has been an inevitability since prior to the 2008 global financial crisis, even if not going back to the 1970s. Whether it was going to be a conflict in the Middle East or an OPEC oil embargo, as it was in the 70s, or just peak production.
Roll on with the question, please. Yep.
So, have we talked about a no jet fuel scenario prior to approximately 2 hours ago?
Yes, because I think it's wider than just fuel as well. So I think all airports across New Zealand have had the benefit of being able to learn from a crisis that means that there are no planes travelling. So, and that links through to contingency planning right across airports, right across New Zealand. Not only fuel, it's a virus, it's an earthquake, it's a tsunami. So we have had that thinking.
Cool, thank you.
Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Chair. Questions about, you want to increase it to by 50%, essentially, the visitors, and you're saying tourism would be a great way to get more people in, but I think more to the point, it's price prohibitive to fly here compared to Australia, for example. You know, Auckland to Sydney versus Auckland to here is similar price a lot of the time. Is there some competition you're looking at? Is there other players you guys are pushing to come here? Not just meaning Jetstar, but other.
Yeah, so that's a combination of what we call tier 1 and tier 2 operators. So having deep conversations with tier 2 operators, smaller aircraft, but also not discounting the fact that we continue to have conversations with Jetstar. They have been very clear so far that they are not coming back into regional New Zealand. And then you're right, you're stuck with a single carrier being in New Zealand with difficulty in their pricing as well. But the tier 2 program, and it's at the edges, is making sure that we're supporting events with charter flights as well, and that we're making sure that we're looking not just at scheduled aircraft passengers, we're looking at jets, training, a whole lot on our airfield. And then it's continuing to make sure that we, with Hawke's Bay Tourism, have got representation in Auckland with Air New Zealand to make sure that at an executive team level and a board level, they understand how important both tourism and business travel is to this region, and that they are doing everything they can to make sure that they have got a cap on those airfares. Because you're right, it's in some cases cheaper to fly to Fiji than it is from Auckland to here, and we are continuing to have that conversation with Air New Zealand.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Chair. congratulations on the financial performance. Three questions. Do you have a dividend policy? Should we be expecting a dividend? And for council, have we budgeted for a dividend?
Yes, we have a dividend policy. And we're planning to pay a dividend imminently, as John said. So for last financial year, we're planning to pay that by the end of March.
And the dividend was declared provisional, at AGM was declared provisional too. A few factors, those factors haven't eventuated to our paying a dividend, and our policy is 45 to 65% of impact. And then you have to answer your own question.
Yeah, I can answer that. We have budgeted, but for a smaller amount, 150. So, yeah. Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you, Chair. Kia ora, everybody. Yeah, well done on the numbers. Well done. I just want to pick up where Councillor Watkins left off. If you fly into Rotorua, into Te Arawa country, you know you're in Te Arawa country. You get a greeting of some cultural significance, be it in pose, you're serenaded, you're marinated in some waiata as you walk through the door. And I mentioned it prior to my hiatus as a councillor. Where does it say to people you're in Ngāti Kaurunu country? I'd go beyond just a welcome. I'd say, kia ora. You know, something of that significance. I think it's important. I think it's vital. I think it's for our cultural sustenance. I think it's important. You imagine walking through those doors and you're greeted with this magnificent culture. What experience, it's an experience. That's what it is. So I want to put that squarely on your lap once again, and I pray tell that you would take up the challenge. And I'd like to see something done about it. I mean, you got wine in the floor. You got wine in the floor, I'll give you sustenance of a more addictive, intoxicating nature. That's our culture.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. So we'll just, you don't have to answer that, we'll just leave that with you to okay. Councillor Te Ao Skipworth.
Thank you, Chair. Given the conversations around preparation for what if, we had COVID and we had to refit the way we do things. We've obviously got some modelling from that, as well as possibly the cyclone when we're out for a little bit. So I'm hoping we're using those modelling of how we come back from an event should that occur. But also when we talk about the conversations we're having with Air New Zealand, what's our influential power in terms of that? Because from what I'm hearing in the communities I'm in, it's not individuals that are flying, but it's businesses or corporate entities that are flying people in and out. So what's our lobbying power for discount rates if you're flying X amount of people from a certain business? A bit like a Koru Club, but in terms of agencies or businesses.
To be honest, the influence is relatively minor. We can't. We can help influence, but we can't change the decisions. And it's very clear to make. It's very important or critical to make sure that our relationship is commercial, but it's also focused on the long term, and it's respectful when it's and our discussions are held in a closed door rather than in the front of a paper. And that goes for all of our conversations with what we're trying to do with Air New Zealand and tourism, is to make sure that we're having grown-up conversations in Auckland in a room with executive, and it's focused on a long-term requirement to grow this region, rather than a short-term shortage of planes that they've got.
I might try to add to that. It's a really good question. Very good question. And one way we can influence is by having really sharp landing charges. Like if we have an efficient cost base and efficient set of assets, our passenger charge is, I don't think it's a secret, is it? It's $17 a passenger. In other airports it's 24, 26, 28. So we can just try to set an example by saying we're running as efficient a ship we can. So if you have spare planes and you can fly more people, which might lower price, it's that kind of influence, but direct around the table influence, very minor, if I'm honest.
Thank you for your honesty. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Lorcan?
Yes, through you, the chair. G'day, first time councillor, nice to meet you and see you. Just a quick question, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but just looking at, you know, the 5% reduction in passenger numbers, and just noting that there's, in the 6 months to the 31st of December 2024, to the same date 2025, there's been a 79% increase in the compensation paid to key management. And I'm just wondering how that compares to previous years, because that does seem,
I think,
or am I misreading that?
a key definition is we didn't have a CEO for a year either. So
Thank you. All right.
composition has changed quite significantly.
All right, answers my question. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mamil?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, it's really encouraging to see the result. It's great to see a profit above budget. I think that's great in this current economy. And I would just like to move that recommendation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Mamil. Councillor Ross?
Through you, Chair, I'm just interested in know what steps have been taken to mitigate bird strikes, and how do we reduce that? It's a big concern for you as an organisation, thus us. What are you doing in that space? Thank you.
I'm happy to talk for hours about this. So we, and just to kind of bring it to a close quickly rather than over the next hour, we carry out, before every scheduled aircraft movement, there is a wildlife patrol by one of our fire team. So there's at least kind of 18 or 20 wildlife patrols done every day. We've also got acoustic scaring devices. We've got a habitat augmentation program that tries to augment the habitat to not be attractive to birds. And where we need to start to lean into is making sure that habitat is augmented outside of the airport as well. And that's the mission for the next 12 months.
It is really tough, though. We can't hide from the fact that the best practice is 5 bird strikes per 10,000, ours is 18. So it's a publicly available numbers, and we're surrounded by water and everything else. So it is a real challenge that I don't think any other regional airport faces. And it's the number one, tier 1 operating risk for the board is birds or wildlife, because there's rabbits and toads and everything else you can think of on the runway.
Seals, deer, the whole lot. Yeah.
It's a real challenge. It's a serious tier 1 operational risk.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, just very, very quickly, I should have asked it before John will expect, I probably thought I was going to ask this question. I've spent years and years and years trying to get the local buses to go to the airport. Is anybody using them?
Yes, they are. Yeah, yes, they are. I can't confirm what the numbers are, but there are people on it.
Councillor Nixon, you happy to second?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we've got a mover, Councillor Mamil, seconded Councillor Nixon. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Always good to see you in the chamber. John,
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nick, and thank you, Rochelle, for the result. And we are grateful and our ratepayers for the extra dividend. So that we've been able to. Thank you. I know. Thank you. I'd now like to invite the finance team to go. So we're up to item 10, which is 6 months financial results. So, yeah, slight presentation. Fire engine. Right, well, welcome Graham and Aaron. So what I might say is the highlight of the day, the finances. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Before I start, I just want to emphasise these results are the 6 months to December. And we all know the environment has changed somewhat, especially over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks. But these are the results to December. Revenue, we're trailing just slightly behind where we had expected. That is fundamentally coming through from the capital subsidies that we get. And that's behind because we haven't spent as much, we haven't got yet to the milestones where we can actually reclaim the money sort of back. As revenue is down, and that's the capital side, from an operational expenditure side, we're actually running under budget. Some of that is timing, some of that is actually sort of money that we banked. And just to emphasise, the savings that we committed of 2.7 million for this year, that's already baked in. So it's not an additional amount of savings, it's baked into the numbers that we're tracking against. So we're tracking well against that at this point in time. Capital, we're basically under by 22.1. Now that's not saying that we're running behind, we're running efficiently. There's just some challenges with some of the projects, just the procurements sort of coming in, getting access to land so we can actually do the work. The intention is that we will be doing most of those works at this point in time. As luck would have it, we had just finished a reforecast of capital spends for the year, and then we had the situation that we're being faced with in the Middle East. So we're going to have to look at that as we go forward again. We're also in the middle of reforecasting our operational costs, so we do have an opportunity to actually look at what the implication could be, and that will be in the short term. We will also need to look for the longer term and bring that back for the annual plan discussion that we get to in June. But we're now left with the debt position, having taken all that into account. We're sitting at a net debt of 456 million. I think the positive aspect of that is that's 198% of the self-imposed level for council. So we can go up to 250% of recurring revenue. So that's giving us quite a bit of headroom, even on our self-imposed level, should we need it to handle anything that may come from what we're experiencing today. So from that perspective, we are in a good position from a debt perspective. I'll pass over to Mr. Wilson, who'll go into all these results in a bit more detail, but that's really just to try and set the scene.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As Mr. Watson said, effectively, there's three main things happening. It's around the capital revenue under the timing issues and also the CapEx underspend as well. So that's what we're really looking at when we dive into these numbers. So as you can see there, operating subsidies were 3.3 million favourable. The majority of that was around the favourability of timing between the summer cyclone Gabrielle subsidy we received versus when we expected to receive that budget. 800,000, however, was to do with community and social program grants received, which of course wouldn't have been in the adopted budget because we didn't know we were going to receive them, and they will be offset in the near future with the spend obviously against those grants for what we were given them for. So what you'll see is that the revenue will be higher, but in some of those cases the spend will be higher going forward. In terms of the other items there, transfer station of course is related to fees and charges. We have 40 different business units, enormous levels of overs and unders, so finance go through those for 2 hours every month as a team and roll through every single variance. We then bring those up to when they're moving the needle and where they're sitting. Transfer station is something, and landfill you have seen before in terms of the volumes. Volumes are down. It is reflective of where the economy is, and that's the main driver, offset by some increased parking revenue and also water connection fee revenues in there. But the big talking point is below that line, which is the capital subsidies and grants, which are 10.8 million. And as Mr. Watson had already said, that really relates to and is reflective of the underspend in the CapEx program. along with development contributions, which are behind just because A, they are notoriously hard to tell when developers are going to move and when they're coming. We're hoping to look at some movement on that going forward. In terms of operational spend, what I've tried to do here is show what's timing difference and what's actually baked in. So timing differences, we've got the ETS carbon credits of 1.6 million. So what generally happened when we adopted the budget was it was phased every month that would be put through the accounts. There was a change in accounting process at the landfill committee level, and what they are now doing is putting it all in one hit in the May period. So as a result, of course, we've done our budget and then later something different happens. So, but we know that that's not going to last, that favourability, and that's just the timing difference. Insurance is another one where we expected the invoicing to have come in by now. It didn't, it's a couple of months late, so as a result, you get a really big number there. Contracted services, that, as Mr. Watson said, we are, officers are engaged right across all of the activities in a OPEX forecast at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see where that is. That is down, we don't think, and we do think that that will spend because it's across a lot of different projects, contracted services. So we'll just see where that goes. In terms of non-cash spend, of course, the depreciation is what we brought up in the previous quarter. That will continue to grow based on the fact that the valuations occurred after the adoption of the budget. Therefore, we know that the value of our assets went up and it's caused that imbalance there. In terms of expenses that actually are more likely to be locked in, what we've got there is the Blackbridge grant to Hawke's Bay Regional Council. I understand that there is some work having been underway in terms of a cultural assessment, but this is very dependent on when Hawke's Bay Regional Council actually decide to fit that into their program of stock bank work that they're doing. At this point in time, our indications are that won't be this year. That will be in the future, probably next year. It's 765k for half year. It's 1.5 million that won't be spent this year. That is debt funded, it's not rate funded, so it's not like we've overrated the community for that. That will roll and be rebudgeted into the following year. Net interest costs, we've got 400k at the moment. That is pretty baked in because, of course, we've got lower debt, therefore we have lower interest cost booting through. That will continue, so that's a baked in number. The personnel is around vacancies and also some of the Splash Planet personnel was favourable during that up to the end of December, and they are baked in. So you know you don't overspend, you just catch up, but you never catch up what you've already had go through there.
Yep. So finance, 2 minutes of your financial hits, Aaron, please. Yep.
Oh, 2 minutes. Cool.
It's about 2. Yep.
Sorry, I'll try and do this really fast. As you can see, 22.1 effectively is the year-to-date actuals. Mr. Watson has touched on procurement and also longer lead times and negotiation. Contracts that take longer than budgeted has driven the underspend in capital. We're saying forecast 234 versus 264. That 30 million will be pushed into the following year, reprioritised, not added to, so then we'll take some out of that next year's budget and push that out further according to infrastructure teams and what they see as a priority. In terms of treasury, 493, Graham's been through that. Liquidity is 117%, that's really healthy. It means that we can meet our short-term obligations. We're looking at around $505 million debt at year end. One other thing is, and Graham's touched on it, is the debt to revenue is looking really healthy at 198%. That's well below, which gives us good headroom going forward. So
wonderful. Thank you, Aaron. Any Councillor Montepito Hendry?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your unders and overs and your ins and outs and doing everything that you do for us. I love that we have a little bit more money until next year when we do spend it for Blackbridge. I love that your fingers are all over it and we're looking after our money. Can I just ask that our officers are all over that cultural impact statement and the consequential flooding that may come from that, because that means dollars too. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, yes.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Clare.
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Chair. I see, HR salaries were 400,000 less cost. Is that impacting on performance of council, not having those staff on board?
I think that really, there's a couple of key roles that weren't fixed or weren't filled in that short period of time for the first 6 months. It hasn't impacted on council performance at this point in time. The other aspect of that was we didn't run Splash Planet as often as we thought we would have. So again, there's some short-term savings coming through there. We may see a bigger impact on that in the third quarter report that we'll do in May.
Yep, yeah, good question, Councillor Corbyn. Any other? Right, looking at you, mover, Councillor Nixon's voluntold to move. Thank you. Anybody like to second? Councillor Watkins. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, finance team. Thank you. Right, and now I'll pass this over to Bruce. Now we're on to item 11. This is the big financial report. So how we'll do this, I think we'll have the officers, Bruce, come up, and as we move through each area, any questions you've had since you've been going through the report. So who have we got?
So if I
can
can
over to you, Bruce.
Our group management team could come up, Mrs. Ferguson and Mr. Charteris as well. That'd be wonderful. So yeah, as I mentioned this morning, we'll just do a bit of a chapter turn as we work through the document. If you have any questions or things you want to highlight on the way through, staff are here to answer those questions and providing feedback. So first up, marketing and comms and events. So if there's any information in there. So marketing and comms and events covers things from Te Moana Showgrounds through to customer services and our events activity through that period of time.
Yep. Ms. Sholem?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question from me under customer service, page 8. CRM limitations. The current system does not differentiate between upheld, unsubstantiated or noted complaints, limiting reporting transparency and ability to derive actionable insights. Are we doing anything around that, or are we just noting that? Because I think that's kind of an area that I'd love to see some work done if we can.
Through you, Chair. That's an area that we're currently awaiting outcomes of other IT upgrades in the organisation that will provide us with some greater capability. Unfortunately, we're on hold until that's done.
That's very pragmatic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mamon?
Thank you, Chair. Just talking about Horse of the Year, the loss of Horse of the Year with Te Moana Showgrounds. I know that, this isn't correct. I know that we were going to have a report back with the loss there. And I see in the report that we're talking about lots of maintenance required for the equestrian space on site. So I wondered if there is demand in that space. I guess this is kind of a few questions entwined together. At the consultation that had gone out, or the survey, the results, I haven't seen any summary of that, so I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of clarity around that, please.
Through you, Chair. So the equestrian investment has continued because we actually do have a number of equestrian events happening at the venue on a regular basis. This month has been promoted as Equestrian Month. We've got events on, I think, every weekend. So that's been really positive growth in that space. In terms of the Horse of the Year report that is coming back to Council 2nd of April, we'll be providing a more detailed update at that time. And then the third one,
around the survey.
The master plan. So part of the feedback when we bring to you shortly the draft master plan, we'll have it will address it first of all the feedback we received, and then how the master planners had been informed by that feedback, and so that is coming to Council hopefully at the end of April.
Great, thank you. And then just one further question following on from that. I see with the master plan that the trust has been formed, and just wonder where the responsibility sits, obviously financially, and who will be setting the statement of intent and all of those kind of things, if that's been defined yet.
And so through you, Chair, an update on that is that at this stage it is still in the development phase. As part of considerations for council and the trust, we'll be bringing a paper to you with some lease management arrangements and the financial impacts of, obligations that would come from that, and also the obligations around asset management, maintenance, or funding, how that funding would sit.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Solomon?
I'm just making sure I haven't deviated into the next section. Please tell me to sit down if I have. Just looking at page 20. Have I gone into the next section?
No, you're right.
Okay, good. Essential infrastructure communications. I just note under risks that noted there is overemphasis on cyclone recovery, potentially overshadowing other infrastructure programs. I think that's very real in terms of interactions that I'm having out in the community. And I just note in particular the misinformation that seems to circulate online regarding the Waimarama Tamata Road roundabout, which had significant impact. And I'm just wondering, have we got any plan, and I am springing this on you, into how we can manage that to make sure that the community has the right information? Yeah.
So I'll just take as a start, but I'll work with Craig, as the team are trying to monitor those posts for misinformation and then putting out corrected information. So that's a key focus, but I'll pass to Craig.
And through you, Chair, I guess the other key additive is the learnings and the positive approach we got from the way that the cyclone recovery team and the media and working with Mana Whenua, that model is now being applied across the wider capital program. So that level of intensity and awareness and communication will look to go across the wider BAU program as more consistent as well. So that's part of the PDO outcome work.
Thank you, Tim.
Councillor Watkins?
Thank you. Just on page 11, if I may, the Great Wine Capital AGM, could I understand the duration of that, and what is Hastings hosting?
Through you, Chair. The detail of that I'll have to get from Vicky Roebuck, who is our representative on the organising panel, but I believe it's been hosted primarily in Napier at the War Memorial Centre, the main conference. Sorry, is it Tortoy? Oh, it's moved, sorry. So yes, so I'll have to come back to you. I can provide an update.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll take an action on that. Councillor Corbyn?
If I could just speak to that, there are significant events in Hastings during the AGM. I've got a copy of the program here that I can share with you later.
Yep, wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. All right, I think we're on to corporate.
Corporate services is the backbone of the organisation, Chair.
Thank you, my second favourite accountant.
So yeah, I'd say a good list of projects, the stuff that's going on in the organisation, strategic risk and civil defence and emergency management covered off in this section.
Yep. Mayor Solomon?
Thank you, Chair. Just noting page 23, the Hawke's Bay Regional Technology Services. I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the huge amount of work done by staff from HCC, HBRC and CHB in terms of collaborating on shared services for IT. Thank you, team. That is exactly what we need as a region. So I would like to take this moment to acknowledge it. And just also signal, as I have already, but formally in this space, a strong desire to see increased shared services with our partners across the region, because this is how we drive meaningful change for our community and ratepayers' dollars being spent in the most efficient way possible. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Solomon. Would you like that recorded in the minutes somehow? Yeah, because it's quite a momentous. Thank you, Mayor Solomon. Any more corporate services? All right, we're on to
asset management, which covers the multitude of from cemeteries to parks and buildings through our core infrastructure of three waters and transport and solid waste.
Through Chair, just as a point of entry, I'm sure there's lots of questions on pages, and if you forget it, always send in a request and I'll have the team provide a response. Probably a couple of headline items though. The inaugural Infrastructure Delivery Committee will have its meeting next week. So there's a lot of detail that subcommittee of this committee will work through in terms of the capital program and progress. Just a reminder that next week on Tuesday at 1 p.m, we have the workshop out at the wastewater treatment plant. That'll give you a chance to have a look at that plant for those who haven't been there, but also talk about the key investment, and also inform you of the tender that will come back to you on the 2nd of April. So really an informing piece and an opportunity for you to see a critical piece of infrastructure and a significant piece of investment that council will be making. The other one, and it's been topical through the day, so I just thought I'd foreshadow it, and just in terms of fuel. In delivering infrastructure, we use a lot of diesel and we use a lot of bitumen. Thankfully, we've finished most of our sealing season. We do have asphalt, which is the smoother renewal program, happening through March, April. We'll be reviewing that just depending on how prices move and our potential sensitivities in our pricing model, but also have to make an assessment around how long this will last, because sometimes the price never fully comes back, and it also costs us a lot of money to maintain things that haven't been looked after. So we'll do a balance of that. We're also working through our total volume of use, because what would happen if we end up with the government declaring scarcity, where the National Fuel Plan will move from level 1 to 2, 3 or 4. Critical infrastructure takes dibs, and we need to provide the volume of fuel that as a priority user we would be looking to take out of the system. But also importantly from a fiscal perspective, just an understanding of the level of exposure. For example, across our waste services, curbside services, landfill and transfer station, we use about 310,000 litres a year. If you have $1 movement in diesel, that's an extra $300,000 of costs that would have to work through. So you multiply that through the wider program. So we're actively working through that as an executive team in terms of resilience planning, have a work stream around that to control, understand the effect of scarcity, but also understand the financial effects, and if we need to make decisions on priorities.
Cool. Thanks, Craig. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. Just asking if the peer review was completed on the ponding layer updates. It was due to be completed end of February. We'll just confirm that has been completed.
I think I can come back to you, Councillor. Darren de Klerk, who's not here with us at the moment, he was working through that. I think there was the peer reviewer and the original work, we're doing some back and forth. Our intent is that work will come back to you to present the findings of both, first of all, Havelock North.
Just an action.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
it'll be coming back to you as an item.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Jessup.
Oh, kia ora, through the chair. Can we just go to page 52, please? Roads and transport. And where it's got footpath forward, I've had 2 calls from mobility scooter users that go down Henderson Road, and it's got no footpath.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering where that sits, because I would hate for one of them to fall off into that.
Yep. So thank you, Councillor. Perhaps we could take that offline and just do that as a request for service, unless you want to make it.
We can pick that up, but just for those councillors who weren't here last term, that was an item that was put forward for works. It didn't survive the funding prioritisation, in particular because the NZTA changed their funding and there was zero funding towards footpath improvements, but it's absolutely something that should be on the program in consideration in the upcoming LTP. There is currently no plan for that, but it should be included as discussions with the next LTP.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Jessup. Yep, and Councillor Corbyn.
Councillor Corbyn has kindly allowed me to jump forward because mine actually relates to the topic at hand. I'm just wondering, Mr. Thur, if you could please just re-emphasise that again about footpath funding. I think it's really important that the elected members, especially those who are new around the table, understand the implications.
Through you, Chair. So under the last government policy statement for transport funding, which is how they allocate the hypothecated fuel fund, in the priorities of that, they reduced the pool of funding nationally for safety and footpath and cycling. And what that basically meant is we have less money, no money for extensions for walking or cycling, and even less money to maintain what we've currently got. So the team have had to do a lot of reduction. We've just finished the survey of our footpaths, and thankfully we don't have a long list of very poor, poor or very poor, which typically lead to tripping hazards, and we're using available funds. But into the LTP, the team will give scenarios for council to consider investment options moving forward around looking after footpaths and cycling, both looking after what we have, but also improving connections.
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at consented water allocation. Where is it? Maintaining compliance with our consented allocation is becoming increasingly difficult. So 3 questions. Have we got a problem? Is it industrial or residential? And have we got a plan?
Through you, Chair, we have a workshop planned for you coming up to talk about this topic exactly. It is we're okay at the moment, but we need to invest in demand management and additional work accelerate investment so we can meet our obligations we've adopted in our FDS. We have a plan proposed, it's just through.
Okay, Councillor Woodman, thank you. Councillor Nixon.
I just want to pick up on Mr. Hughes' comments a few minutes ago about asphalt roading and so on. Are we considering simply delaying much of the roading program in order to not get less roads for the budget that we've already allocated so that we can pick it up hopefully later when prices come down to normal? Does that make sense?
Through your Chair, that is a consideration we may need to make. At this point in time, we don't see a need, but it's something depending on where the market indices goes, cost escalation indices that we'd have to weigh up. But we also have to understand some of those sites, if we delay the work, we could have some significant consequential maintenance repairs, and so it becomes a false economy. So that's active work that Jag and his team with Adam will be working through.
But just, has the price of asphalt and bitumen and whatever, diesel, have they gone up sufficiently that we're starting to notice it?
There is a degree of lag in how those indicators come through from Department of Statistics. And in our ceiling, we use a Singapore bitumen index, which goes up and down each month. That index is updated. We already have notifications from a number of contractors who would like to talk to us around the adequacy of those escalations to meet their real costs, and we'll work through those in a pragmatic way and where they're due funds. So what we're looking at managing is if a scenario, particularly around the asphalting time through March, April, if we suspect that there'd be a 100% increase in cost, and what would that cost us, and therefore are we better to delay, and we'll make that decision and inform you of that. At the moment, the plan is to get the work done, but we'll just work through that pragmatically.
Thanks, Chair.
Yep. Yep, no, it's a, yeah. So just what's, I think Councillor Nixon was saying is, due to the escalating cost, is there projects that can be pushed back and revisited at a later stage? So good question. Councillor Montepito Henry.
Thank you, through you,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. We flipped to transport before I got to my questions. Just page 52, paragraph 10, I'm conflicted on, but that's one paragraph out of 110 pages. Just for transparency. So on transport, school speed limits, I see that they have been, the variable speed limits have been put into place. I'm just wondering if they have been considered to be re-looked at now that the school buses have been removed in some of those areas, and what they did model the transport and needs and speeds on is now changed. That can be come back to me. Thank you. Next one, Te Wanga Dam, thank you so much for your proactive approach there. Pretty excited to see what comes back from that. That one there is on page 44 in program highlights. And one, I think that's me done.
Thank you. So we'll take that as an action.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just a question on page 54, the school speed limits. Is Nelson Street North on that list? Thanks.
Through you, Chair, Nelson Street North is the site that has the electronic signs on, which are in place already, and related to the councillor only time, we're just pulling the data out of those, of how effective they've been. And we still have a couple of trees to remove and make an appointment with the school to talk through that particular issue. There's also a legalisation piece which follows working through NZTA and the police, which will allow also the police then to go in and start issuing infringements if where drivers are not adhering to that reduced speed. So, and that legalisation process is currently underway.
Councillor Noah Westick.
Thank you, Chair. The fuel usage, while that is actually not a great deal as far as Hawke's Bay goes, do we have any storage facilities at all as a council?
Through you, Chair, our council has a little bit of storage. Generally, it's around operational needs for if when there's an electricity outage. We do have some storage tanks that we keep post-cyclone, but not material. If we go into a full use, and so if we have a massive electricity grid out, we lose the connection to Waireki, we burn through those stores pretty fast, particularly out of the wastewater treatment plant and the like. So we don't have enough to last ourselves a particularly long time. Our contractors are required to also have storage to have a degree of business continuity themselves. And the fuel farm and bitumen at the port has significant storage directly at the port.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Te Ao Skipworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in regards to the school speed limits, I don't need an answer today, but can we get something back in regards to where we're at with Omahu School? Thank you.
Yep, we'll take that as an action. Thank you. Next one.
Yep, so we'll move on to the Community Wellbeing and Services section from page 57 on. Mr. Dinwoody.
Yep, through you, Chair, I'm just happy to take any questions, but obviously this is probably the first time you've seen the range of facilities and services and programs we have that contribute towards community wellbeing across our district.
Yep. Councillor Te Ao Skipworth. Oh, sorry. Any, Ms. Olam? Yep.
Just really something to note in a question, I guess, is page 70, where we're talking about our beloved Toitoi. I note under risks, the lack of dedicated car parking and hotel-based accommodation capacity are ongoing challenges, restricting growth in local and domestically sourced business events. I just wonder if we're looking at that at all as much as we can, knowing we are limited as a council, but in terms of enablement for the LTP, whether or not that's feeding into any work we're doing there, team.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, I believe it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at neighbourhood support. The number of urban groups, 3532, is that the number of groups of 8 or 10 houses that are part of a neighbourhood support group, or is it, what does that number represent?
Yes, through you, Chair. It's a number of groups, so there are a huge number of groups, because even within one urban population like Stortford Lodge, they have a number of groups within a place, because it might just be a street, for example. So it's those number of communities or those people in the communities that want to come together. So there are a large number.
Do we have a feel for the percentage of households that are part of a neighbourhood support group?
Through you, Chair, no, I don't, but we can get that for you.
Sorry, you what?
We can get that for you, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take that as an action as well. Councillor Montepetro Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, neighbourhood support, I was just going to sort of speak to what Councillor Corbyn said. There are so many groups, so thank you for the mahi here, and it would be cool to understand a little bit more and what our risks are and what they need. The other thing is the art gallery highlighted as a risk with upcoming works. Is there a plan there? Like, are we going to do, you know how you got to exit through the gift shop, are we going to flip it around so we can have another access, or what's our plan to mitigate that, please? Oh, sorry, Bex, page 66, risks and opportunities.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, just in relation to neighbourhood support, going back to that, we did recently get external funding, which has enabled us to work on a new system that enables us to communicate and manage our neighbourhood support groups much better. So we get that 18,500 a year for 2 years to set up that system. So that helps us with that. In relation to the art gallery, in terms of the art gallery, you still get good access into the art gallery itself. It's just that the main gallery within the art gallery is having the the floor renewed. So it's actually nicely walled off, and the other galleries are still available. There is obviously that work going on in the Hall of Memories and the libraries, but that hasn't affected the access into the art gallery itself.
Move on to the next one.
We'll move on, Mr Chair, to
Sorry, councillor Jessup, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'd just like to go to page 61 and acknowledge our city assist for the workmanship award. The other thing that I'm very concerned about is the homelessness and how we're sitting for capacity with the security, because I see that the tender's going to turn over. Thank you.
Yep, okay, we'll just note that, thank you, so, yep.
through Chair, so we'll move on to planning and regulatory, and true to form, Mr O'Shaughnessy's lurking in the back benches. So if there's any questions on the planning and regulatory numbers, Mr O'Shaughnessy is here, and Mr Mananui. And through your Chair, compliments to the team of the session that was held with the sector last night.
Yep. Was well attended. Mayor Sholem?
And just following up on what Mr Allen said there, acknowledgement of Councillor Ross too, who chaired it very well.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Sholem. Any questions? I'd hate to see you've got up there for nothing. Everybody must be happy. We'll move on to the next one. Yep.
Okay, yeah, well done, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll now move on to the slightly broader category of strategy, which there's a few number of points in there. If there's any questions, particularly around the strategic work program and climate change city centre strategy.
No questions on that. I think we'll move on to
growth and development.
Growth and development.
We're on up to page 92 of the pack.
No, everybody's satisfied with that as well. Mayor Sholem?
Not on this section, Mr Chair, but if I may make a request for future reports coming through PNM, going back to your beloved corporate services, Mr Allen, it would actually be really wonderful to get some reporting out of democratic support. I understand that that is an area that's under pressure at the moment, and I think it would be good for the council to get reporting on that going forward.
Yep. Noted some action. Yep. Noted. Thank you. Right. Could we have a? I'd just like to thank the officers for the reports. It's a large amount of work that goes into those, and it gives us a very good comprehensive snapshot of the organisation. And just a very brief summary, we've been through the financial reports, and they are tracking very, very favourably. And also the performance and larger report that we've just been through too. There is no ardent big red flags for the organisation in there as well. So congratulations to the staff for the first six months there, and we best for the second. So through you, Chief, thank you very much. Councillor Corbyn?
Happy to move the recommendation here.
Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. We have a second. Councillor Lorcan will second. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. And I'd just like to, before we go, thank the Democratic Support Team. I put them in their paces today by putting the other things out of order. They didn't know that was going to happen. And also too for my Deputy Chair, Councillor Ross, for all his assistance in the background leading up to this as well too. And I think Councillor Daniel, since you started the day with the...
I'll end it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the team and the amazing mahi that they do for our communities as well. So me nui tātou, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki a ihu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga teitanga, ki te wairoa tapu, ake.
Amen. Thank you. And to those who've watched the live stream today, thank you for joining us as well.